Welcome into our McPherson College Coaches Show, our final Coaches Show before we hit the Thanksgiving break, and then our format will change just a little bit once we get after Thanksgiving, and it becomes pretty much a basketball-only Coaches Show. I'm Jim Joyner, and this man to my left is Steve Sell. Steve, we've made it through almost the entire fall sports grind. Well, now we have made it through the fall sports grind as football and volleyball came to an end last week, and I guess you and I are officially into winter sports mode.
Yeah, and you look back at the fall season, you look at football, great improvement there. They finish in a tie for fifth with two other teams, and those are teams they beat. So to me, that makes them the fifth place team. Volleyball, I believe, was fifth. They upset the number 4 team in the postseason tournament. Ended up had a good year, winning record cross country, had a solid season. And you look at the soccer teams, Coach Quinn's team, always very competitive. I think they were 5th out of 13 teams. Coach Olson's team made a late run. They were 6th. So you look at those teams, everybody was pretty much in the upper half of the KCAC in every sport.
Well, that's a good sign, and it was a very fun fall, and all those programs will continue to build. And, Steve, as we turn to basketball mode, we got to see both teams play 2 very competitive games last week, going up to Bethany and taking on the Swedes. Both teams had great chances to win those games, then coming home and sweeping Tabor. Really good week for those 2 teams.
Well, anytime you can sweep Tabor with the programs they have, that is a very impressive week. And the games at Bethany, you look at those, the women were up 10 with 8 minutes to go and just kind of ran out of gas in that game. And then the men were tied with 4 minutes to go, and then Bethany had a little bit of a run, hit a couple really tough shots toward the end of the shot clock to win that game. But I thought, they didn't hang their heads after those games on Wednesday. They came back and really played well. The men with 56 points in the second half. And both MAC teams, they did not want to start conference play 0-2, even though there's 24 games in the conference schedule. You don't want to get too far behind at the outset, because you got to make up some ground. But you look at a team like Southwestern on the men's side. The team finished second in the conference, won the tournament last year. They started 0-2. So, you just don't want to fall too far behind.
Steve, we've got a busy show tonight. No Coach Fiskus for a football recap because they have already hit the road recruiting.
Yeah, that's great. And that's great. I'm really excited to see what he does in his first full year of recruiting. He wasn't around last fall. He came in, around December. And look at how many kids they brought in last year. So with a full year under his belt, his staff is, hungry. They're young. They're energetic. They're going to go out and they're going to get some players, and the Bulldogs can move up a little bit in the standings. They played some really, good teams, really tough. Sterling and Bethel both finished in Avila. Those 3 teams tied for second. The Bulldogs, all 3 of those games, they were within 10 points, single digits in those games. They lost those games, and then KW was kind of in a class by themselves. But everybody else, I think the one game that was probably really hard to take, I wouldn't say the Langston game because they came from way back, but the Bethany game's a game I think Coach Fiskus will tell you that's one they felt like the getaway. And if they just win the Langston game or the Bethany game, they end up with a winning record.
That's right. We also have interviews coming up on this show with Ashley Annis, cheer coach here for the Bulldogs, as well as Fred Watson, Brittany Roberts, 2 players that have not only been scoring machines, but rebounding machines.
Yeah, 2 Texans, and they've really been fantastic here at the start. They've been top 10 players in the conference.
Well, we'll get things going here. And without further ado, here's volleyball coach Corey Cahill. Opening up our McPherson College Coaches Show tonight, we're joined by volleyball coach Corey Cahill after their season came to an end in the KCAC Championships last weekend. A couple of wins in the opening day to improve to and get to Saturday in the semifinals before losing to St. Mary, the eventual conference champion and the regular season champion. Coach Cahill, it sounded like it was a great day for your team on Friday over in Hutchinson. A couple of nice wins. One, you had to make it a little more difficult against York in a 3-2 win, winning that one down the stretch in the 5th set, and then a 3-0 sweep over Kansas Wesleyan. Good day on Friday, and really good weekend overall.
Yeah, I mean, we went into the weekend knowing that it was going to be a tough weekend, that we had to win 4 matches to go on and move on with our season, and we were prepped for it and we were ready for it. And York came to play. I mean, they played probably the best volleyball of their entire season in that match. I mean, they were really impressive. They really pressured us a lot in pretty much every area. I mean, they came to play, no doubt. And so that was a great win for us to come out on top in the 5th set. And then going into the K-Dub match, I mean, it was a team that we've beaten in the regular season. We knew that we had a game plan going into it, and we executed it and came out with the 3-0 sweep, and it was great.
And sometimes when you play a team like York, 5-25, I think, coming in, it's the match you're expected to win. And sometimes those are the hardest ones to win because you just feel like, it's there. You got to win it and go on to the next one.
Yeah, no matter how much I tell the girls, it's every match, and we look at every match one at a time. I mean, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. And mentally, you're always going to be looking at a team that's 5-25 and going, oh, I think we got this. And I think that they really surprised us right out of the gate. And it was kind of that shock of, oh, man, they're coming to play. And so we needed to step up our game, and we did, and we took care of business. So that was great.
Did it help your team's confidence and maybe some extra momentum going into this offseason that you were able to win a couple of games at the KCAC tournament, make your way to that second day, be playing in the semifinals on Saturday? Do you think that helps give this team a little confidence going forward?
Yeah, I think that going forward, we know what we have, and now that the system's in place, I think a foundation has been laid, and I think that we're ready to build upon that. I mean, the way that we all looked at it, going through some of our individual meetings, it's just the fact that, we battled. We overcame a lot of adversity, especially late in the season. Losing Maddie Woog and Alicia Hall really, barely could lift her arm by the end of our last match. I mean, she was really hurting, but wanting to finish out her career. And it was one of those things that we just really battled through adversity, and we kept going and going and going, and we realized that we have a lot more to give going into next year, and we're going to surprise a lot of people.
Well, you lose some really talented seniors. Some of them been with the program for a while. I think, would you have 5 seniors? Is that correct?
5 seniors.
So obviously you got some, people to replace.
Yeah, obviously, Jamie Cease is going to be a big one, and I think that we have some girls in the program currently that really made some huge strides. Revan Bradbury has really turned it on the back half of the season. She was statistically, right there with Jamie almost every match. There were some matches where she was even better than Jamie, and then there were some matches that Jamie was better than her. But as a 3-rotation DS, Revan just improved dramatically, and I think that her ability is only going to continue to improve over the course of a spring season, so I'm excited for that. And then we have a libero coming in that's also very talented, and Delaney List returning and Jules Yanez returning, that I think will all compete for that role and compete to be on the court. So we'll be in a really good situation moving forward, I think. And then, with Alicia Hall, she stepped up huge, and she played, maybe the best season of her entire life. Earned second team all-conference. Did some incredible things. So those will be big shoes to fill. Bree Wallace did some great things over the course of her career, and was a leader, and so she'll be tough to replace as well. Liz Williams, and Kate Hines. And Kate Hines had, she averaged more assists per set this year than she did at any point in her career, and so that was great. There was definite improvement there. Jamie Cease even, she broke every single statistical category that she had last year's Libero of the Year, and she was a second teamer this year, but every statistical category she was higher than this year, other than accumulative digs, but that was based on not playing as many sets. So we saw some huge improvements from our senior class, but really from our entire program. That's just really exciting.
That was another thing I wanted to talk about. You wrap up year number 1 here in McPherson. What are some of your takeaways from year number 1 and some other things going forward with the group that you have coming back?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway is the fact that I think that we, as a staff and as a program, have really laid a really solid foundation. We put in place new systems, new ideas, new coaching. Everything, a lot of things that they'd never been exposed to, and they responded exceptionally well. There was some, like I said, a lot of adversity this year. A lot of things didn't go our way, but then we also had some really great moments as well. And so I think that moving forward, I think the thing to take away from is the fact that, one, this group that I have returning, there's nothing in them but fight. They're going to fight to the end. They're going to battle. We're going to be a hard team to beat no matter the night. And so that's one of those things where I'm really excited to not only have this group coming back, but then having a group coming in that I feel is extremely talented and can really complement what we have returning.
And I would think one area that you'd like to get better at for next year, just be bigger. You're a little undersized by KCAC standards. It seems like everyone's got a 6'1", 6'2" up there, and I think your tallest was like 5'10".
Yep.
I don't know if you had any 6-footers or not, but you were a little undersized against the teams you played, but you made up for it in other ways.
Yeah. I mean, for me, size is – it's a number. I mean, having a big 6-footer would be great, but for me, I just want to find the best volleyball players. My recruiting class, are not big. I mean, we're not big. We have our tallest kid in my recruiting class, I think, is 5'9", but man, oh man, are we athletic. I mean, the recruiting class coming in is just pure athletes. We have a setter coming in that is like a Riley Bradbury, but a setter. So just an explosive athlete, but a setter. And we have another setter coming in that's a 5'9", pushing 5'10", and very athletic. We have some outsides coming in that are very dynamic, very explosive, have big arms, and they're, 5'8", 5'9", but man, can they swing at a ball.
Is it a mix of high school kids and JUCOs, or
all high school, straight freshmen this year?
Are you going to try to get any junior college kids at all?
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at seeing maybe pulling one or two, maybe pulling one this spring. We'll see. My focus, I think, for the long-term success of the program, I want to really build from the ground up, and I want to build some success and have an influx of freshmen that we can kind of build around over the course of the next 4 years. The talent that I have coming in the freshman class is, bar none, some of the best talent I've ever recruited as a freshman class at this level. So that's what's really exciting.
Well, you've alluded to this recruiting class a ton. Are you ahead of the schedule here for most college volleyball teams in terms of recruiting, or are you behind, or is this just about average to where your recruiting class is pretty much done when the season ends?
For this level, I'm probably, for the most part, ahead of schedule. I'm behind the ball as far as like the top level. D1s, D2s are ahead of the schedule.
Well, they're
for me.
picking them out at about 14 years old.
They're way ahead. But for this level, yeah, I'd say that I'm ahead of schedule / right on the money for some. So my 7 that I had committed prior to the season starting, that was the most I've ever had committed at that point. So that was a big deal, getting kind of a core group completed by the start of our season to where I didn't have to worry about recruiting during season. It was just focusing on the team, the program, and moving forward there, and then kind of finishing up and buttoning things up for those 7. And then now that the season's ended, maybe looking for 1, 2, 3 more kids that could fit the puzzle and just make us that much better for next year.
Well, what do the next couple of weeks look like for you and your team? Are you telling them to get away from the volleyball court for a couple of weeks and say, go sit down on your couch and not play volleyball? Yeah,
so a lot of, this week we're doing individual meetings and just talking about things, how the season went, what we can do moving forward, talking about spring goals, things like that. A lot of the next couple of weeks for them is going to be rehab, making sure that we take care of our bodies, kind of rest, relax, just take care of ourselves, focus on academics, make sure we finish in a really good academic standing. We had 10 all-scholar athletes, so we want to continue that trend and hopefully raise that number. So those are the things that we're talking about. And then for us as a staff, looking at planning for the spring, planning things out, scheduling, those types of things. Recruiting's big. Some showcases at the end of this semester, and then going into next semester, some big tournaments to go to. So kind of just knocking out some scheduling things, working on our schedule for next fall, that type of stuff.
Well, Coach Cahill, congrats on a great first year, and we'll hope that year 2's even better.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it.
Joining us now on our Coaches Show is McPherson College cheer coach Ashley Annis, and this is an interesting interview for us because you guys aren't typically in the season, and I know it's coming up here for you guys, but what's the off-season and the preparation looking like for your championship events that are coming up, in January?
Right, yep. It'll be our championship will be in February.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So what are you guys doing in terms of preparing for that at this point?
Right, so we really use football season and volleyball season as kind of our dry run, right? Like we're throwing stunts and that kind of thing. But we've started our routine, and really we're breaking down 2.5 minutes into 9 elements. So they have to hit all of those within that time. So at this point, we're just kind of making sure they know those transitions and slowly adding in those skills. So it's not full-blown competition routine yet, but we're working towards that. We really kind of get to know the routine, and when we come back from Christmas break, it's all all in. So
the sport has really kind of taken off the last couple of years. What is, you have to go out and recruit. You're like any of the other coaches here, but when you go out and recruit, kind of squad size are you looking at, or what's an ideal squad size?
Well, I'll say this. Within, especially, we compare a lot to the KCAC, right? We are a large squad for the KCAC. We have, we're tied for the most athletes on our team this year. And I shoot for the stars. I'd love to have a program of 25 for cheer because we can only have 20 on the mat. But with any other sport, injuries happen, right? You want to have those backups. So we look to have 25 because it's a great size for game day. That is a huge element for us. But competition-wise, you want to have, those people. You don't go and play a football game without a backup quarterback, right?
Right.
So we want to have a backup quarterback when we have, our routine. So
talk about your background. I know you were at Tabor, but talk about high school first, and then Tabor, and then what you've done. Is you've been a couple different places coaching.
Yeah, so I started cheering when I was 4 and cheered all the way competitive all the way through high school, and so having that background around, Kansas competitive cheer at high school is kind of new as well. But yeah, I cheered all through high school and then came out to Tabor for 4 years. And then I was over at Central coaching, and they were a non-competitive squad. So really just looking to get into that competitive world.
And when you were at Tabor, didn't you serve as a coach while you were?
I did.
You were like an interim coach, even though you were like a senior or something like that.
Yeah, my senior year, the first semester, I was a student assistant, but we had a sponsor basically. So she was there to make sure nobody got hurt. But as far as game day and all of that, I ran the squad, so that was quite an experience to try and run it while you're cheering.
So it was a great on-the-job training for your future.
Absolutely, and I think that it allowed me to kind of make those mistakes in a very safe area, and you learn from that. And I look back now and I'm like, wow, I would not do it like that. But you learn, that's part of being a young, I guess, coach. Yeah, when you're still in school. So.
How many men do you look to incorporate into your teams in terms of the stunting and the actual competition? I know that for standing on the sidelines at games, you can have a few more, but how many would you prefer to have for competition?
Yeah, so right now we have 3, and we can have up to half the team. So if we have 20 on the mat, we can have up to 10 guys. And I think there's definitely a benefit to that, right? But I think the ultimate goal would to be having a program that is large enough that we can have an all-girl team and a co-ed team. For me, a true co-ed would be 6 guys and then 6 girls to go along with them. So that's the ideal, and I think that's really realistic. Kansas guys are really stepping up when it comes to cheerleading and raising the level of their skills and knowing that it can take them into the college level. And so, I think that's what we're aiming for is about 6 to 8, would be great.
How do you go about recruiting? Is it an internet thing, or do you go out to schools and watch, or is it basically social media or anything like that? I don't know.
It's really a combination of everything now. It's good to go to the football games because I'm a coach who I think competition and game day are just as important. I never want McPherson to lose that game day atmosphere, right? Just because we have our own season. And so going to a football game or a basketball game and seeing a cheerleader in action, especially when they don't know you're there yet, is great because you see authentically how they are as a cheerleader. And then going to competitions like the Keisha competition this weekend is a great opportunity to see them in action on the mat. The more competition experience someone has, the easier it is transitioning into a college program where we have a full season. That's not typical around here. And so having 6 to 9, even 10 competitions a season is something they have to grow into. So yeah, that and then Instagram. The kids love Instagram and they post everything.
I don't.
Steve loves Instagram.
I don't do any of that stuff, so it's way over my head.
Yeah, they do. They will post, they basically post a full recruiting video on their Instagram at this point.
Wow.
So it's valuable to be able to find them, and they're more likely to message you back on Instagram than they are to maybe answer a phone call. It's just more casual for them. They're used to it. So really kind of everything. Just being really involved and getting to know them in person. But then, Instagram's huge. So.
I would think another element in terms of cheer recruiting that maybe would be different than football or basketball would maybe be on-campus recruiting. Maybe a girl that's here to play volleyball or run track that cheered in high school and maybe wasn't even thinking about it and could see you guys compete for a year and say, okay, I could come back out. Do you get to do that very often?
Yeah, there are those kids. it amazes me because of my mentality when I was in high school. I want to cheer. I want to cheer in college. But there are those kids, especially cheerleaders, who go, I'm just going to go to school. Or they are playing another sport that was maybe top priority for them in school. But yeah, so we do have a couple dual athletes. We even have a football player. Iman McNeil is going to be
That's
on
the way
our
you
team.
gotta get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you see
and
him
I'll bet he's
tumble.
very acrobatic.
He is. You see him tumble at the end of football games, but he does a really good job. He has an all-star cheer background. Who would have known that?
Wow.
Right? And so we do find those kids, and they do a great job. You know, they bring a different element, a different mindset when they're in other athletics. So it brings a diversity to the team that I think is really great.
Well, Coach Annis, once we get a little bit closer to competition season and once you get things rolling, we'll get you back on here. But we're glad to hear the update. Now Steve and I can go grab a pom-pom or two. I think Steve would be not a very good competitive cheerleader, but I think he would be good with the big megaphone
I can
on the
yell.
sideline.
I can yell.
I think you could do
We'll get you
that.
out there maybe
All
the
right.
next game.
All right.
Joining us now on our McPherson College Coaches Show is Bulldog men's basketball coach TJ Eskildson after a 1-1 week last week with a loss at Bethany by 8, 79-71, and then an 83-77 win over Tabor. Let's start with the Bethany game from last Wednesday, a game where your team, I thought, had it played at the right pace against the Bethany team that's been battling some injuries, but you had them sped up. They were turning over the basketball. They were running up and down the floor, and your guys continue to just play at a really, really unbelievable level of hustle, athleticism, and you gave that Bethany team, who I think is a top 3 team in this conference right now, an incredible push last Wednesday.
Yeah, I like you said, I thought we had the game being played at our pace, which was what we wanted. Unfortunately, we still haven't shot the ball real well since the beginning of the year. So we need to start making some shots. But if we can keep speeding people up, keep them playing at our pace, I think that's to our advantage. Obviously, Bethany had some big guys that I don't think that they really wanted to play at that pace, and I thought it was awesome that our guys were able and we were able to kind of impose our will on the game and try and get them to play our way. But we just need to start making some shots. So, and I think that will happen. I think we will start making some shots. But I was really pleased with our effort against Bethany. We just couldn't get over the hump there at the end. But we did a lot of good things in that game.
Yeah, with 4 minutes to go, that game was tied. And then I think Bethany finished the game on something like a 13-7 run or something like that. Yeah. But I liked how hard your guys never had any lulls in that game where they didn't play hard. I mean, they really battled and they were really into the game, and it just seems like the chemistry is really good with these guys right now.
Yeah, guys have bought into their roles. They're really, and they're buying into the way we want to play, and I think that's important, and that's something that as you go throughout a year that you hope that you have guys that are bought into what their roles are on the team, and I think our bench enthusiasm has been great, and that's something that we've really been harping on with our guys, is that we need enthusiasm on the bench and just excitement about playing the game, and I think that we have that right now, and we just need to continue it.
Saturday night, Tabor came to town, obviously kind of a rival because they're not too far away. They bring a great following to their games. You guys and Tabor throughout this decade have kind of been the 2 gold standard teams. McPherson College, of course, the first half of the decade was the dominant team. Friends, the second half of the decade, kind of the dominant team. But it was a very important game for you guys because, A, it was your home opener for conference, and B, nobody wants to start 0-2 in the conference. You have to defend your home turf. Even though it's a 24-game schedule, which is just insane in my book, you don't want to start 0-2. I mean, you can get back in it, but it's a lot better being 1-1 and 0-2. You guys were down 6 points, 33-27 at the half, but then you really turn it up. You forced Tabor out of their comfort zone and scored, I believe, 56 points in the second half.
Exactly, and we talked about not wanting to go 0-2 and talked about defending our home floor, and the teams that are going to be towards the top of the league are going to win their games at home, and that's something that's going to be really important, is that we try to win our home games and we defend our home floor. I was kind of disappointed in our guys' energy level in the first half of the Tabor game, and I think part of that was we gave so much effort in that Bethany game, and there was so much emotion to the first conference game that I just thought we were a little bit flat in the first half of that Tabor game, and we kind of challenged them at halftime to pick their energy back up and be positive, and they responded. We had some great individual performances, and as a group, I thought we really did a good job.
And you're pretty much undersized against most teams you play, but you look at Saturday night, 2 double-doubles.
Yeah.
Luell Magat and Fred Watts both with double-doubles. Fred had a great week because he had a terrific game up at Bethany with a double-double there. But for, giving some size away, your guys are really battling on the inside. And, of course, Delvon, he's kind of a guard, but he can sneak in there and board too. And you just got guys that battle. And then, Dorian Page, I thought on Saturday, finally played like the Dorian Page we kind of all anticipated since he's been here, because he's finally healthy. He hasn't really been healthy his whole career, but I just thought he took the game over late.
He did, and he was a huge part of why we won that game. I mean, we started running some ball screen stuff up top, and he started getting downhill, and there wasn't a whole lot Tabor could do other than foul him, and that's what ended up happening. And we got to the free throw line a lot, and that's a big part. If we can get Dorian to keep doing that and keep attacking and play with the confidence and understand that he can be one of the better players in this league, then I think that'll help us a lot in the long run.
And you got 26 points out of your 2 point guards. How many teams get 26 points from their point guard position?
No doubt. I thought Josh Rivers in the first half of
kept
that
you in the game.
Kept us in the game. Yeah, I think he had 11 points in the first 10 or 11 points in the first half, and he played really well there. But again, going into the season, I felt like we had 2 of the better point guards in the league, and I still feel like that. And I feel like on any given night, both of those guys can give us something.
Last year, when Steve and I were talking about the McPherson High basketball team, we said that they were a streaky team. That was a word we used a lot. They were streaky. They could score in bursts, and that they could come out and all of a sudden put 20 on you in 3 minutes, and you look up and don't know what just happened.
Yep.
I don't know if it's exactly the short-term burst where I think your team has been really good at that, but it's more of the 8-minute burst where you guys have been able to put in those 6 to 8 minute stretches where you just put it on a team and they don't know what happened. And especially in the middle part of that second half against Tabor, I feel like that will be a strong suit for this team going forward, being able to score for a sustained stretch of about 8 minutes.
Yeah, and that's I think that's part of how we're playing. I mean, we're just playing at such a fast pace that it can be 3 possessions. We hit 2 threes, get to the free throw line a couple times, maybe create a couple turnovers, and I'm hoping that we can keep that up. I'd like to have an 8-minute streak turn into a 16-minute streak of playing really well, but I feel like we're getting better every day with that.
Well, as you look ahead to these 2 games that are coming up for you, you have Friends this week, tonight, Wednesday down in Wichita, and then on Saturday bringing in Southwestern. 2 teams that were in the top 3 in the KCAC last year. Of course, Southwestern ended up winning the conference tournament, second in the regular season, and I think last year's Friends team in any normal year in the KCAC probably would have been the conference champion if you take out Southwestern and Oklahoma Wesleyan. Both those teams are a little different, though, than they were last year and lost their best players from a season ago. What do you know about Friends and Southwestern going into this week?
Yeah, Friends still has Poppy Conley back, who is probably one of the top 5 players in the league. He was an All-American at Hutch JUCO and was an All-Conference player last year at Friends. They're solid. I mean, they're going to mix up their defenses. Coach Faber does a great job there. He really makes a lot of adjustments during games, and we just need to be ready for everything. We need to do a good job on Conley. Zion Freyland's a kid who's been there, started for him for 3 years. So they've got guys who have been around and have done it before. So and anytime you go down to Friends, it's not an easy environment to play in, and we got to be ready to go. With Southwestern, they've reloaded. I mean, they're 0-2 right now in the league, but they've lost to Ottawa in a close game. They've lost to Bethel in a close game at Bethel, and they're shooting the 3 is probably better than anybody in the league right now, and we need to be able to defend. And Coach O'Brien always wants them playing at a fast pace, so I think that'll be a fun game because I think both of us want to push the pace and both of us want to get out and run and we want to shoot the ball. So I think that should be a fun game on Saturday here.
But you'll sleep a little easier knowing that you don't have to figure out a way to stop Cameron Hunt
or Jordan Murdoch.
That's right. I mean, those were 2 of the best. I'll tell you, those. I've covered the conference for over 40 years. Those are probably 2 of the 5 best players I've ever seen in this conference. And Jordan Murdoch, a 6'4", 280-pound guard, and then Cameron Hunt, about a 6'5", left-handed guard that I think's playing overseas in Germany or someplace.
He scored more than 1,000 points just last year.
Yeah.
A 1,000-point college season.
Yeah, it was just insane. But anyway, but things change, and these are new teams, and these are games very important in the conference race because you look at the conference race right now. You got about 2 or 3 3-0 or 2-0 teams at the top. Southwestern's already 0-2. Oklahoma Wesleyan's already lost a game.
Yep.
So it's anybody's conference for a while.
Yep, it's wide open, and got to take one opponent at a time, and that's what we're going to do. And Friends on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll be ready, and we'll see what we got.
Well, Coach Askelson, best of luck this week and then this weekend, and we'll see you on Saturday.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Joining us now on our McPherson College Coaches Show, we're joined by Fred Watts from the McPherson College men's basketball team. We have Brittany Roberts coming up here in just a little bit, Fred, and one of our players coming up. We have 2 player interviews tonight, but Fred, you've had a terrific start to this season. It's been a lot of fun to watch. You've not only been great in scoring at 14 points per game, but averaging nearly 10 rebounds per game, second on the team in scoring, but been a great on the glass. So we're first in scoring, second in rebounding. Just been a really fun season for you so far. You've shown a lot of different things. You're shooting, whether it's getting to the rim. How fun has this junior season and the start to this year been for you?
It's the funnest I've had in a long time, honestly. It's just great that we have a team that just wants to win, wants to compete, wants to play unselfishly, and it's just, I love it.
Talk about the style change this year. TJ's incorporate a more just, full court style, fast paced. You're a big guy, but you like to run. And one thing I've noticed on this kind of offense that you run, you're the trailer, and you love that top of the key shot. Has that always been kind of your shot there? Because it just seems like they really look for you in that situation. You've been knocking them down.
Yeah, that's my money spot. Supposedly, that's what Coach says. So. Yeah, I love that spot. That's my favorite spot on the court, really, that in the paint.
And talk about the style, just the up and down. Last year, it was a slower pace. A lot of guys played, but right now you're about an 8-9 man rotation. But talk about how much fun it is just to get up and down the floor.
It's a lot of fun, especially when you have guys like Dorian, Page, Josh Rivers, and that can just run the floor, and they're extremely quick. So, honestly, it's just running with them, catching the rebounds that they miss, and it's amazing.
And Delvon Hightower, he's kind of the old guy, and he really seems like he is kind of a quiet leader, though. You guys kind of go to him for advice. He just seems to be like the fatherly type. But talk about Delvon.
Delvon, he really brings the energy. He really just settles us down when we're too hyped up. He'll just make sure we're in the right mindset before games, during the games, and all in between. He leads us in practice. Like you say, he's a great leader. He actually is. I talk to him outside the game as well, but he's just a great guy.
But you don't do those push-ups when your name's announced as a starter like he does.
Oh, no.
What's your relationship been like with Coach Askelson? Was he involved in the majority of your recruiting? How has your relationship been like with him from assistant coach and now to your head coach?
I've always loved him. He's the reason I came here. First off, he talked to me. I just love him. I run through a brick wall for him. We talk to him about everything, about the relationships we want with him, and everybody on the team says that we will run through a brick wall for him, and it's not going to change.
A big first week for you. I think you had double-doubles in both games, but you guys were right there with Bethany, who's considered a top 3 team in the conference, and then you come back home and beat Tabor. Tabor's been kind of a gold standard program in the conference the last few years. How important was it to come out of that first week 1-1?
It was really important because after the last few years, we didn't want to go off a bad start again. So this year we wanted to come and make a statement, especially to bring some more fans to the games. And it really means a lot, especially for me to go 1-1 for the team.
I can tell that with this team, you've been trying to be a little different than you were last year, and I can tell that there's a different type of physicality, different type of emotion with this team because there were some stretches at the end of the year where some teams were beating you guys and beating you bad, and it feels like you guys have taken that personally, and you've been trying to take it out on some of these first couple of teams as well. I noticed it with Bethany. I noticed it on Saturday with Tabor. Do you feel a little bit of the same way with that too?
Definitely, we definitely do. I hate losing. I feel like every player hates losing. But I just wanted a change. This team is definitely a change. So, yeah, we're ready for it.
And one thing about you guys, we've talked to Coach Askelson in the past. You're probably the smallest team in the conference in terms of size. But, you and Lual, you're getting double doubles every game. I mean, you guys are just is rebounding a mindset, an effort thing? What is it about rebounding that you're averaging almost 10 rebounds a game, even though you're like 6'5"?
It's just definitely an effort thing, definitely a mindset, because a lot of players don't want to go through all the physical, like, I don't know, it's just they don't want to be so physical to go fight for rebounds, and they want to just wait for them to come to them. So it's just basically just I want to get more than other players do.
Well, Fred, tell me a little bit about your journey getting here to McPherson. I know you're from Channelview, Texas, down in the Houston area. How did you end up here in Central Kansas? What was the recruiting process like, and how have you liked it here in McPherson?
Coach Esselkin saw me in a big tournament in Dallas, I believe, and automatically I loved him because he was just way nicer than any coaches I talked to, and he acted like he was more interested in me as a person than a player. So from there, I came up here on a visit. I knew I wanted to be here, and I've loved it ever since. I made so many connections. I love my teammates, love the coaches, love the people here. It's just been amazing for me.
Well, what are some of the rest of your goals for the rest of this season, whether it's an individual goal or a team goal, as we get closer to the Christmas break, and then we'll make that home stretch?
Individual goal for me is to be in the all KCAC team, be leading in at least rebounds, and we already talked about for a team we want to be champions.
2 big games this week. Friends and Southwestern. You've gone up against them many times in your career. Friends doesn't have Jordan Murdoch anymore. Southwestern doesn't have Cameron Hunt anymore. I'm sure you're probably happy you don't have to chase those cats around. But anyway, still 2 very good teams.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely are. We can't underestimate them, even just because they lost those talented players. But we feel like we're going to compete, and we have these.
Well, Fred, congrats on a great start to the season. Let's keep it rolling for a few more months.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Joining us now on our McPherson College Coaches Show, we're joined by Brittany Roberts of the women's basketball team. And Brittany is off to an unbelievable start this year with 18 points per game, 13 rebounds per game. Brittany, what has changed for you from last year to this year in terms of your mentality, your physicality on the floor? What's different here for you this year?
I would definitely say confidence and just knowing that, like, I can attack. And I don't know. I just, like, worked really hard this summer and, like, really focused on changing my mentality and just coming back harder and just wanting it more for the team and myself.
Well, rebounding is a mindset, and you've got this mindset. If a shot goes up, nobody's going to get it but you. But it just seems like you're so much stronger to this year. Did you, like, lift weights in the off season, or what'd you do? Because it just seems like you were so much stronger and quicker and faster to the basket.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that because I feel like I came back like weaker in the weight room, but then like when we maxed out, like it was higher, so I was really confused. But it's just like I said, it's just more of like a mindset and wanting the ball for my team and just like going after it. It's just like rebounding is just such a want and an effort, and I always just like keep in mind that I just don't want nobody to doubt.
And it just seems like you and Danny almost have a contest who can get the most rebounds right now. You 2 are among the top rebounders in the KCAC, and in fact, you're leading in rebounding. But do you just kind of drive each other? Do you talk about it? Say, I'm going to get this rebound. She'll say, no, I'm going to get this rebound. Or
we don't ever talk about it. I think we both like just like work super hard, and like we're just both athletic. That sometimes we get caught up like even like having the ball at the same time. It's just like, you know, we'll be like, I got it, and she'll be like, I got it. I'm like, no, but it is what it is.
What have you thought about the beginning of this season so far? You're 5-3 overall, 1-1 in conference play, and going into a couple more big games this week. What are some of your thoughts here early on this season for how your team's played?
I think we're playing really good as a team, especially like defensively. I definitely think that we can go, as long as we go in with the mindset that we can like beat anybody, then I think that this season will come out really well for us.
it just seems like you guys have bought into this kind of scrambled defense. Coach Nichols, talk about that scrambled defense. It just seems like you look at the Bethany game, they're the number 3 pick in the poll. You turn them over 31 times. Tabor, the team you beat on Saturday, the pre-conference favorite, you turn them over 24 times. You guys kind of get jacked up, try to force tons of turnovers against those really good teams.
Yeah, we try to like because this is like a really fundamental conference, I would say. So we try to like get them out of their element and make them like do stuff that they're not comfortable with, like put the ball on the floor, like just like really get into it and just get super scrappy with them. It's just like kind of like our style of play.
When it comes to preparing yourself, not just mentally, but physically for this style of defense and this style of play, and Brittany, you're demanded to play a lot of minutes out there because of the amount of points that you can score and the defense you provide. What's gone into the conditioning? What's a day in the conditioning like at practice with Coach Nichols? I know he likes to run, but does he make you guys run a ton?
Yeah, this preseason probably was like the hardest out of all 3 years. I mean, like, out of all the years I've been here. So yeah, we ran like lots of miles and just a lot of things that contribute to our game.
Talk about how you ended up at McPherson College. You're from Texas, and how did you end up in Kansas?
I just like how I ended up here. I was just like, I was really under the radar. I knew I worked really hard, but a lot of the stuff that I've gained in my game now, I've actually gotten from here. But Coach Angelina is the one who recruited me. She was very persistent and just like really consistent with like me coming here. So that's why I decided.
What's your relationship been like with Coach Nichols since he took over 2 years ago?
He's a cool guy. I mean, like, I don't really talk to him like that much outside of basketball, but I know that he's like behind me 10 toes, and like he's always gonna have my back, and that's why I respect him. And
what's the future hold for Brittany Roberts after graduating from McPherson College?
I plan on going to get my master's in business and just see what goes from there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany's dad has made it to a ton of games this year, and he'll come up to us and say, "Oh, I'm here for this game," and then, "Oh, I'm going to go back home, then I'm driving back up for this game that's coming up." How fun has it been to have your dad be able to make the trip? What is it, about 6 hours from the Dallas area?
Yeah, it's super fun. I love having him here. He's super supportive and just helps me like develop my game even more, and just like really like instills like confidence in me. And it's one of the main reasons why I'm like in the position I am right now.
Well, you guys have already proven to the entire conference we can hang with any team here.
Yeah.
You've beaten Tabor. You've hung in there with Bethany. And how much confidence has that given this team going forward for the next 22 games of conference play?
I think it's instilled a lot of confidence in us, but we also got to keep in mind that like we just can't get comfortable and just like don't ever be satisfied just not beating Tabor can like obviously like beating Tabor was a goal, but it's like we just can't be satisfied with that.
Well, Brittany, congrats on a great start to this season, and
thank you.
we'll keep the expectations high, and you'll keep the rebound numbers high as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wrapping up our McPherson College Coaches Show tonight, we're joined by women's basketball coach Josh Nichols. After a 1-1 week for his team, a 68-62 loss on the road at Bethany last Wednesday, and then a 2-point win in overtime, 51-49 over Tabor here at home. And like we talked about with Coach Eskildson, you're taking on two really good teams in this conference, two of the top three, in my opinion, with Tabor and with Bethany, and you come away 1-1 and had a great chance to be 2-0. It was a great week for the Bulldog women's team and almost was a perfect week.
Yeah, I was really proud of our defensive effort, especially. Holding Tabor, who's very efficient offensively, shoots the ball really well, to 49 points in overtime. That was pretty big. Then we had a really good, solid 33 minutes at Bethany defensively, and just had Bethany hit some big shots, and so it wasn't so much what we were doing. When you make shots, it's really tough to defend you.
Common thread for the two games was your defense. You do a pretty good job holding a Bethany team that can really score a lot of points, and then Tabor, the KCAC preseason favorite, defending conference champion. You hold them to 49, and they needed overtime to get to 49, but that was just a really big win. But again, 55 turnovers forced by your team in two games.
Yeah, I think that, this year's been a little bit different as far as the defense goes, because I think we don't really have the personnel right now to really get the pressure up front and the front court really pumping. So it's a lot of just trying to get in passing lanes, trying to force long passes, trying to force that pass to be perfect. And then in the half court, I think we're playing really physical in the half court right now and forcing teams out of their comfort zone. Daniel Holt's doing an amazing job defensively, individually. She came up with her defensive assignment for the last two games are averaging 0.0 points a game in those two games. So
it just seems like she's so smart. I mean, she anticipates so well. She draws a lot of charges. Brittany Roberts draws charges. Those two have just been cleaning up on the boards. And then out front, a player that, to me, has been kind of under the radar is Brittany Jarvis. She's got, she's not a speed demon, but she's got really quick hands, and she just seems to get some key steals and deflections.
Yeah, she's in the top 10 in the nation in steals right now in the AI. it was kind of funny, in the recruiting process, you're trying to explain how we play, and this is what we do defensively. And her biggest concern was, Coach, I don't think I can play defense. And so I remind her every day, yeah, you can play defense. You're doing a really good job. And she still doesn't think she's doing a good job. But, it's that mindset that we try to impose on our team is, you got to be mentally tougher than that. You can do it, and you will do it.
One of my favorite parts about the win against Tabor on Saturday is this was not the same storylines from the previous ones this season. It wasn't Brittany Roberts scoring 38 points with 25 rebounds. It wasn't this team making a ton of threes. This was your team being able to, with some of your second stringers, some of your reserves, and some of the girls that haven't been the big names this year, finding ways to get this done for you down the stretch, because Brittany Roberts had fouled out, Danny Holt had fouled out, and you were down to girls and saying, hey, time to make a play. And not only did they do it defensively, they did it offensively. They came up with big baskets for your team in the overtime. Kirsten Branscombe hit the game winner. That was my favorite part of that win, is that it was the girls that maybe you weren't expecting, at least maybe Steve and I weren't expecting to step up, that made big plays down the stretch.
Yeah, it was really cool to look out on the floor, and in the moment, obviously I wasn't there, but looking back on it, and you have 3 sophomores, a junior, 1 senior in overtime, and all 5 of them played such an amazing role throughout the game, but in overtime, it's been a long time since I've had a point guard like Mason play 35 minutes in a ball game. To play at our speed and the defense we ask them to play, that doesn't happen very often. And then, Haley Hurst got us off to a good start. She didn't have a great game up until that point, and then got the tip, got it into her. She made a good move, scored. Ellie came up with a big rebound for us. And then, Brittany got a good steal for us as well. And then, KB hitting that shot. It was kind of a weird thing, because earlier in the week I'd called her out and I said, hey, you're this close to having a breakthrough. And, fate would find the ball in her hands with under 15 seconds to go. And I think, she just proved that she is on the cusp of having that big season.
Well, it's nice to have Branscombe and Hurst, that are backups to Holt and Roberts. There's not, even though Danny and Brittany are tremendous, there's not a massive fall off, because those are both very talented players in their own right.
Yeah, and KB is starting to rebound very well, especially on the defensive end. She started to kind of figure things out. The light bulb kind of came on a couple weeks back, and I expect her to just keep growing and having a bigger year for us. And then Haley is just, again, she put so much work in the off season last year and over the summer to make herself a player, and she deserves all the credit.
Before we dive into this week of games, I have to ask you the very important question. I'm a journalist, so I have to ask very important questions. So you received a technical on Wednesday up at Bethany.
Yes.
And I hear that it is worn off on members of your family.
Yeah, my daughter in 7th grade picked up her first tee last night. She was not real happy with the officiating. So
Where'd you get that from?
I don't know. My wife was like, after the game, she was just like, oh, no, don't tell me that she's taken after you. So, yeah.
Well, I got a technical, I think, in 5th or 6th grade basketball. Somebody stole the ball from me, and they started running the other way. We were playing at the old school for the deaf in Olathe. The walls are real close, and I started chasing him and just kind of popped him in the wall and then said, see you later. So I can feel for her, and hopefully she won't get another one. But if she's physical, then we're all good.
Yeah, I highly doubt that'll be her last one.
Well, you look at this week. We talked earlier, Friends on Wednesday, new coach.
Yeah.
Again, second year in a row for a new coach. Before these last couple coaches, they had one of the best programs in the country, perennial top 25 team. How much have they changed their style since Rayanne was there? When she was there, they were just incredibly physical on the defensive end. They were always the team that held teams to the lowest point totals and field goal percentage. How have they changed under Dean?
Well, he's doing a lot of different stuff. If you watch the game film from game to game to game, it's almost a different defense every night. And so we had to be prepared for anything. They're going to put a little pressure on us. They're going to try to trap us some. They'll run some zone. They'll do some box and one. They'll double team. They double team Conley almost all night the other night. Every time she touched the ball, they ran another player at her and forced her to give it up. So, you got to expect the unexpected defensively for them, and they're doing a good job of trying to mix this stuff up and making it difficult for them to scout.
I know that you had a chance to see Southwestern when they came up here and played Central Christian very early on in the year. I think that was like October 23rd, long time ago. What do you know about Southwestern for Saturday?
Very athletic team. They shoot the ball a lot better than they did last year. They got a little bit more size. It's a lot of the same kids as last year, but the ones they brought in are very much helping them get over the hump a little bit. A much improved team for sure.
Well, Coach Nichols, best of luck this week down in Wichita on Wednesday, and then Southwestern here at home on Saturday at 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wrapping up our McPherson College Coaches Show, Steve, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, this is our last one under this format where we have all the different interviews and we go an hour. After we come back from the Thanksgiving break, no show next week. Once we come back, we'll go 30 minutes. And not only that, we are changing the day of the show as well. We are going to record on Thursday mornings, air on Thursday nights. And the main reason for that is that it's basketball season, and those are our primary teams that are going. They play on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So we don't really want to run a show that we talk about the Wednesday game as it's going on, and so we'll change our format a little bit, but looking forward to this winter season as we wrap up the fall officially today.
Yeah, we had a good show today, and I always like having the student athletes on, Brittany Roberts, Fred Watts, and get their insights, and boy, what welcome additions they have been to the McPherson College community.
Well, I think they probably feel at home because you kind of have your southern drawl.
Well, I that's what everybody tells me. I
You
don't
could
know
be
why.
a Texan.
You think?
You sound a little more Oklahoman.
I think Louisiana is what I've been told.
You
so.
could be a man from the bayou.
Yeah, Cajun.
There you go.
Raging Cajun.
So next week, we will not have a show. The following week, we will go back to Thursdays, and it will be a 30-minute show where we'll have both basketball coaches as well as a couple of players every single week. So, Steve, enjoyed the fall.
Oh, it was great.
Enjoy
fall.
your Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it should be great.
All right, we'll wrap up today's show. For Steve Saul, I'm Jim Joyner. Thanks for listening to the McPherson College Coaches Show.